Good evening, everybody. I would like to call this June 16th, 2026 council meeting to order at 7:07 p.m. We'll stay seated for a moment's silent reflection. Thank you very much. As we gather this evening, I acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. I move to the mayor's address. On the weekend of May 29th to June 1st, our municipality, as well as our neighboring municipalities, experienced a significant wind event that resulted in downed trees and power lines, starting fires in various locations. I want to recognize and thank our public works staff and our fire department volunteers for the incredible job they did responding to many calls of downed trees on roads and on hydro lines, which ignited numerous fires. Fire crews have to mobilize quickly, assess fire scenes, prioritize responsive equipment, and volunteers split up into various teams and address each situation as it arose. Public Works toured the road network, addressing calls and clearing trees and debris. This work continued throughout the night, Friday and into Saturday. I want to thank Jill Hanlon for the excellent job she did during the Nowhere Music Festival. Jill was in attendance during the 4-day event wearing multiple hats as building official, fire prevention officer, and bylaw officer. Jill was instrumental in collaborating and managing communications with myself, police, paramedics, firefighters, campground owners, and festival coordinator. Since our last meeting, I attended 10 meetings for county and/or municipal business. On June 2nd, I attended the Community Leadership Exchange workshop at Algonquin College. The meeting was an exercise in exploring opportunities for new or enhanced partnerships with county, municipalities, and various community service agencies. The goal was to identify the main challenges facing our communities and find one area where a combined effort could have an immediate impact on improved service. The one area that was identified was to reduce duplication and streamline services using data, software program, and AI for improving efficiency. Brantford County has started their summer construction projects and will be providing a monthly update on project progression, which can be viewed at the link provided by Taylor Hanrath from the county's operations department. I've also attached the most current update of the county projects. I want to remind everyone that on June 20th, Algona Wilberforce and the Brantford County ATV Club are having a poker run starting at the Golden Lake Community Center and following the EG Trail through Algona Wilberforce and Philadelphia Richards. On June 27th, the Truck and Tractor Pull event is taking place at the Snowdrifters Activity Center. And on the following day, there will be a demolition derby at the same site. Everyone is invited to attend one or both events. And that is my mayor's address. And I have a motion that the June 16th, 2026 mayor's address be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Buckle. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, then I have a motion that the May 19th, 2026 regular council minutes be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Ricky Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Buckle. Are there any errors to conditions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we're pleased tonight to have with us a delegation, Kathy Tubby, and it's in regards to noise bylaw special events permit. Kathy?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Rose and Council for having us this evening. I have Candace Tubby here with me as well, and she would like to address you first.
Okay.
Are we good here?
Yep.
Okay. That's it?
You guess you can.
I'd like to share there and step in.
That's
Sure.
okay. Good. All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to let me address the council today. I'll keep this brief and respectful to all property owners and business people in North Algona Wilberforce. I come to share my experience living within 0.5 kilometers of the main stage during the Nowhere Festival at Ravensnow. I'm here with Kathy, who owns the business New Frontiers, that is also the property adjacent to Ravensnow. The reason why this is applicable to a council meeting is that I received a notice that there had been an exemption granted under bylaw 2020-49 with regards to nuisance and noise. The council approved the festival go till 4 a.m. Friday, June 5th, and 4 a.m. on Saturday, June 6th. On Sunday, June 7th, it was approved till 12:30 a.m. In my opinion, the council did not do its due diligence in looking into how extending this bylaw timeline could impact its surrounding community, homes, and businesses. When we originally complained about the event in summer/fall 2025, we attended a meeting with Mayor Rose, the CAO, Fire Chief, along with the event coordinator, Devon. He showed us a map outline for the event, and he confirmed that this map had been shared with council when they first requested the bylaw extension. Our home is so closely located that it had been included in the festival mapping as part of the design. In that meeting, I pointed out that they had included our property in their festival grounds. This oversight alone demonstrated what I believe was a lack of thoroughness by our council. Should they not take a pause to look at how closely home and property lines are to the proposed festival? Please hear me say that I know the council cannot discriminate against the type of music that is played on someone's property. There's nothing wrong with a group of people enjoying electronic music. However, I think there could be consideration given to an exemption of a noise bylaw where amplified music with a heavy bass beat is going to be played till 4 a.m. versus the disturbance that may be caused by a non-amplified performance. I believe there does need to be some consideration to the purpose of the noise exemption and if the timeline feels reasonable in relation to that purpose. Could the council stop Nowhere Festival from coming to North Algona Wilberforce? No, I'm not here to dispute that. Could the council have protected my right to personal welfare, peace, and quiet, to quote the bylaw 2020-49, without an excessive amount of nuisance? Yes, we have a bylaw in relation to nuisance and noise for this purpose. The council heard a request and deemed that request more reasonable and permissive than my family's right to sleep and personal welfare. It seemed to deem the festival more preferred than the inherent rights protected by bylaw 2020-49. What is this solution? I hope that we can learn from the experience and do better next time. I hope that we can honor events that wish to come into our community and mutually honor the property owners in the same vicinity. I would hope that a more restrictive exemption would be given for such an event should it be requested in the future. Here's a list of 5 outdoor music festivals from various locations and the timelines for their events. In Miami, Florida, they have an EDM music festival called Ultra, and it ends at 12 a.m. Toronto holds the Valve Festival for EDM music, and it ends at 11 p.m. In Calibogie, we recently had Guitars and Gasoline, which was not electronic music, but it ended at 11:30 p.m. In Trois-Rivières, there's the Sensation Festival for EDM, and it ends at 11 p.m. In Gatineau, we have the upcoming Riverside Festival, which is an electronic music festival ending at 11 p.m. This is just 5 of many other examples I saw online. It seems that reasonable timelines can be held to even in the EDM music community. I would ask the council to review the nuisance bylaw and see if there needs to be clarification around decibel limits and outdoor amplification permits. Many cities, include certain regulations around these things and provide an example of how these could be applied. The noise of this festival seemed excessively loud. It was not only a nuisance, but disrupted our feeling of regulation and created a feeling of being on edge. I would also request the council review the event permit requirements. I believe that an event of this magnitude, whether it was held at a campground or private property, should require permits. If there needs to be presence from OPP, Renfrew County paramedics, local fire, multiple meetings with bylaw enforcement, then I would say it has moved beyond a private event. And as a municipality, we need to have a bylaw that can help us organize such efforts and have a pathway for informing the community at large. I ask you this. Is the benefit to Nowhere Festival going till 4 a.m. greater than the welfare of those in the homes surrounding? Does it seem reasonable for people to be impacted 3 nights straight for the privilege of others to experience an amplified music festival in the forest till 4 a.m.? Can we think beyond the monetary benefits? Let's consider, does it benefit the taxpayers in the community? Does it benefit the disabled community? Does it benefit the neurodivergent community? Does it benefit families with young children? Does it benefit the agricultural community? Does it benefit the natural woodlands and forests and the animals that habitat these lands? Now let's shift perspective. Does it hinder or cause any unnecessary stress or any impact on those groups? I can only speak from my experience when I say it certainly caused an unnecessary amount of stress and exhaustion for my family. I had a migraine headache on Saturday morning that lasted through the weekend and early week, and my 7-year-old son came home sick on Monday due to a headache. I'm sure in response to these noise complaints that the festival will respond with a better plan for noise barriers. My question is, why didn't they put these barriers in place this year? We were told a special sound barrier wall would be built to protect our home in that same meeting we had with Nirvana. That did not occur. We never heard from him since that meeting, and we don't understand how we could trust that he would respect our home in the future. On Sunday night, the music was excessive and the loudest it had been all weekend. I texted Nirvana directly with a request to respect our home's closeness and lower the bass levels so that we could sleep in preparation for school and work. It actually got louder. I never got a response. My experience is that they didn't use this opportunity to show respect to the community so that trust could be built in the hopes of their future. I have been left feeling puzzled about how we came to be in this situation where that level of noise was permitted for that length of time. However, I really appreciate our democratic government and that we can use this democratic process to have a voice and a vote. I appreciate the time and commitment it does take to be a member of council and to work through these issues that affect our community. So I thank you for taking the time to consider our perspective that we present here today.
I have a list of questions that I have presented to you in advance, and I do hope that you understand and take them in the nature that there are so many rumors in the community, and I think that it benefits all of us to have that all sorted out and good information in front of us. I know that some of the rumors cause me anxiety and cause anxiety in the community, and it just was beneficial going forward to know what we're expecting. So if I may go ahead and address my questions to the council. First, there is discussion in the community that the council has agreed to a 10-year agreement with the festival. Is there any truth to that?
There is no truth to that, and we have no agreement whatsoever as far as the ongoing commitment for the festival.
Thank you. Okay, and so there has also been rumor of financial benefit from each ticket sold, whether that is provided to the township, to any member of council, or any neighbors, as there had been offers of that nature rumored to be occurring. Are you aware of anything of that nature?
Certainly not aware that the township received any money from the tickets or any payment to any of our staff. So I can't speak for the neighbors, but
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you. Appreciate that. And is there truth to discussion and voting by the council in advance to whether a special events permit was needed or not for the event to occur?
the way our current bylaw for events was read, and it's something we will have to revisit. campgrounds were exempt from having to get a special events permit.
Thank you. And then my next list of questions, and in regards to time, I'll just maybe go ahead and ask you how complaints and things were handled during the weekend and in regards to volume and maybe the extent of geography that those came from, if you have that information.
So I can speak to the complaints that I received. I passed them on as soon as I received them to our bylaw enforcement officer, who is documenting every one of the complaints. So we have a full list of the complaints that people were willing to also identify what geographic area of the township they were from. Then we have that information when we plan to have a meeting with Nirvana as far as, follow up from this whole festival.
And if anyone were interested, would they have access to that information later in regards to the number of complaints and that sort of thing?
I think that's something we could certainly make available, yes.
Okay. So otherwise, I guess I did also want to ask, do you know when the bylaw officer was investigating the concerns, did they happen to, and I'm sure Jill, I just want to say thank you to Jill because I agree with what you stated in your thing. I'm sure it was a busy weekend for her and I'm not questioning the work that she did at all. But do you know if she went to where the complaints were made from at all or just to the festival?
She just wasn't able to
be everywhere
follow
at
up
once.
on any complaints, so she stayed primarily within the festival perimeter.
Okay. So I would like to request a debrief meeting, as you mentioned, in following up with Nirvana in regards to the weekend. So a debrief meeting that would include all relevant parties that had any responsibilities, benefits, or were impacted by the events of the weekend. I would recommend including council, Ravens Knoll, Nowhere Festival representatives, OPP Fire Department, neighbors both connecting and across the river, Bonashare Valley and Knob bylaw officers, and the Bonashare Valley mayor if possible. This is not necessarily an exhaustive list, and I do recognize that if you make a meeting too large, then not anything useful can come of it. So I acknowledge that as well. But this debrief meeting, those coming would be encouraged to focus on impact, both positive and negative, opportunity for discussion of grievances, supported by recommendations for workable solutions, I think would be beneficial. In the interests of the constituents that the council represents. Is that something that the council would support?
That would be something that I can certainly bring back to all of council, and it might take a little bit of planning to try and get all of those organizations together at the same time, but certainly something we could try and pull together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for both of you for your very thoughtful and very detailed presentation. Certainly appreciate your input and feedback, and I will turn it over to council to see if they have any comments, questions. Councilor Buffalo.
Just one comment. You mentioned for a debrief. I think an operational debrief would probably be limited to, in my opinion, to staff and organizations that were involved, as opposed to bringing in the general public. But I would support a meeting with the general public after that was done to share the results of that. Just because there may be issues of confidentiality involved between police and paramedic, I think that may be discussed in that setting. I don't think it would be appropriate to have that discussion with the public. I think that should be done first, but I certainly support a meeting afterwards to discuss the results and again to move forward with ideas.
If may I respond?
Yes.
I can definitely understand that for sure. Would there be what would be the best route, I guess, if there were topics that would be beneficial to be discussed operationally from the public to bring to that meeting?
I would say if we can get some of those item suggestions ahead of time, that certainly gives us more time to prepare some of the feedback that we'd be able to provide as well.
So just send an email kind of with questions and information. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Could I just ask, like, what type of confidentiality, like, do you mean in terms of like, if they had problems with individuals and having that discussion, or I'm trying to just understand that a little bit more?
If you wind up a situation where names could wind up involved, right, there are privacy concerns there that need to be dealt with. One of the other things is debriefs are generally operational in form and not generally open to the general public. It's usually like a staff meeting. It's not a meeting of council, right? It would be a private staff meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Atkinson.
I do appreciate both of the conversation and stuff, and you've been very polite to everyone. And I really enjoy that you say learn and do better. And I think that's probably what, when we have a debrief, we learn and like do better for next year. And I think there were certain things that should have happened and maybe didn't happen, and reducing the noise from 4 to another time would probably be something that a lot of us would be in favor of doing for sure. But I mean, it is very nice though that you come and like, remember one person saying, you know, you come with a problem, but then also come with a solution, right? And so the thing is, like, you're in the front line, you might have a solution that you never thought of it. And like having that information when we do the debrief could be very beneficial, because there might be something that we never really thought about that you guys, you know, and then use that to move forward.
Councillor Robinson, you know, come back to my council before.
I want to echo what Councillor like Sean Paul indicated, but what I appreciated was trying to clarify some of the misinformation that's out there, because that tends to create stress within the community, and just clarifying that I think is a significant step forward. And I appreciate also the clarity of the information that you brought forward is very succinct.
And she said, that's why I was going. Because again, I know some of you I've had interactions with over in the last few days. And I've seen what kind of rumors were out there, and I tried to address those that I could there. But I'm very happy to see that somebody actually came to get the correct information from this table where it should come from. So thank you for that.
So I'm seeing no further questions. I want to thank you very much again for an excellent presentation, and we'll be in touch.
That's good.
And we hope to do better.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Yeah. So our next item then is well, first, before that, I have a motion that the delegations be accepted as information. Moved by Councillor Buckland, seconded by Councillor Atkinson. All in favor? That is carried, thank you. So moving on to item 7, we have Rory with us tonight from McKillican and Associates, and he's going to be presenting the 2025 draft financial statements. Go ahead, Rory.
Great, thank you. Luke has it up on the offer of the C. So if we go to start on page 1, which is the independent auditors report. So next one. On page 1. I'll just briefly go over the audit report consists of 4 main paragraphs, and so I'll highlight them. First one's the auditor's opinion paragraph. This identifies the various financial statements that have been audited, the title of each, the date covering this case, it's December 31, 2025, the fiscal year end. It also states that the auditor's conclusion, and in this case, we believe the financial statements present fairly in all material respects in an audit. The basis for opinion just states the audit is conducted to contain generally auditing standards, they're independent and fulfill their ethical responsibilities. And we believe the audit evidence will contain a sufficient appropriate database. Third paragraph is responsibility of management and those type of governance. In this section, the report describes the responsibility of those in the organization that are responsible for the preparation. And ultimately, those type of governance are responsible for overseeing the township financial reporting process. And then the last paragraph, which starts on page 1, continues on page 2. This is the auditor's responsibility, and it's our objective to obtain reasonable assurance statements of pre-procurement statement. Reasonable assurance, a high level assurance, but not a guarantee. Guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with major accepted auditing standards will always detect on this statement, and on this statement should consider material individually aggregate could at least be expected to influence the economic decisions that you mentioned. So that's just a continuation of the last paragraph. We would have at page 3, which is the first statement of the financial package. It's the consolidated statement of financial position. First area of financial assets, cash and cash equivalents. Cash did increase by 573,000 from the previous year. This is a result of accounts receivable and also tax receivable decreasing. Also, amount was transferred to reserves during the year. When you take a look at the cash flow statement, it'll provide a lot more detail on how this increase occurred. Also, remind everyone, it's consolidated because 8.38% of the Algona financial report is consolidated within these financial statements. So they're that this is included in all numbers. The next item is the taxes receivable. Taxes receivable did decrease by 150,000 from the previous year. Taxes are currently 8.8% of taxation billed, and that does include the county and school portion, which the municipality has to collect and remit to the those two, or I guess four school boards and the one county, even if the municipality has not collected it. This is down from 11.8 in the previous year. 8.8 is a low percentage in the general municipalities, a big reflection on staff. By reducing these amounts, it does free up cash or bring cash into the municipality for reinvestment. Accounts receivable increased by almost 396,000. It consists of HST of 231,000, which was an increase of 42,000. That relates to timing and also like buildings were completed near the end. Tourism growth grant of 130,000. ICIP grant of 53,000, and then the other base recovery consists of about 20,000. Investments consist of the Algona Waste Management Board of 350,000 and the township of 642,000. So total financial assets did increase to $6,272,601. In the liabilities area, accounts payable and accrued liabilities, there was a decrease of 119,500 as trade payables decreased. Trade payables were just about 170,000, increase of just over 30,000. Due to county system about 8,800. Due to Ontario about 26,000, and then the waste recovery of about 44,000. Deferred revenue, obligatory reserve funds, these consist of gas tax of 2,500 and then OSIP at $241. Deferred revenue decreased by just over 11,000. It consists of Live It Up of $400 and then cannabis funding of $20,000. Asset retirement obligation. This is the estimate closure and post-closure care of the solid waste landfill for future years. There was an increase of just over 252,000 during the year. Of this, there was just 62,500 waste to the municipal waste site, and the balance of 814,857 was to all valid waste recovery. And then the last item is the net long-term liabilities. This is debentures and loans. It's related to all valid waste recoveries, portion of municipality's portion of their loan of just over $5,000. So, total liabilities were $1,155,000, resulting in net financial assets of $5,118,000, which was a decrease of just over 22,000 year over year. That one was related more to asset amounts being transferred to non-financial assets from financial assets. So in the non-financial assets area, tangible capital assets, the gross amount of assets, it's the gross amount of assets, it's less amortization. There was an increase of just about 172,000, which is the result of 1,572,000 amortization, but then there were also additions of 1,338,000 in additions. The main additions related to were Marsh Road of 778,000, Black Creek Road of 144,000, Rankin Parking Lot leaving of 29,000, and Righty Road of 208,000, and then Snowdrifters additions of 123,000. Inventories of supplies consists of fuel, gravel, sand, and salt. The township has it, and on year end there was a change of about 19,000. Sorry, I think right now 19,000, about $9,000 which was just usage and but winter events that occur at year end. Then the last item is prepaid expenses. This relates to expenses that are paid prior to year end. There's a decrease of about just over $5,000, so $5,000, and this relates to service contracts and training. The waste recovery portion of that is about 2,936. So, and which ends resulting in an accumulated surplus for the municipality. It was $25,603,682, which was an increase of $176,967. And then at the bottom, you can see the accumulated surplus, what it's comprised of. So that's equity and tangible capital assets, reserve and reserve funds of just over 6.1 million, and then the unfunded landfill closure post closures are back there because that amounts haven't been, that money hasn't been released yet. So yet by the municipality of 877,357. I'm sure there's any questions related to the financial position.
Not seeing any, any continue already?
I'll maybe get blueberries on it. If we turn to page 17, instead of doing the consolidated statement of operations, which includes all of our waste recovery, we'll look at the general operations because that's just the municipality. So the first area, revenue, non-municipal taxation, was an increase of 11.1%. It's due to taxation rate, assessment value change, supplementary and write-offs. And so you can see that got very close to the budget amount for the year. In Ontario transfers, the municipal partnership fund, the largest portion is just about 702,000. There's the OSIP grant of 235,765. The Ontario Highlands grant of 141,000 and some other minor ones. The budget had a larger amount related to the Highland grant, resulting in the discrepancy in budget amount and actual. In the Canada grant, it consists of summer grants and then also the gas tax grant of 101,000, so 102,000. And then other items, there will be other items consist of penalties on interest and taxation of just over 110,000, waste collection of 77,000, building permits of 38,000, investment income of 57,000, and there's also a WSIB recovery of just about $47,000. It's higher than the budget amount due to the WSIB recovery and also gain on disposal amount. In the expense side of, the statement, general government, the city council, in general government consists of council wages, 144, administration wages, which is about 600,000. Administration materials of 163,000. And amortization of, just 11,461. The protection persons and property, fire department consists of just about 115,000. Leasing of 523,000, protection inspections of just over 5, building permits of 128,000, and amortization of 131,000. The budget amount was higher. This relates to the fire department did not purchase many tools, and also the CMC wages did not occur in the end. In transportation, salaries consist of 728,000, materials 813,000, contracts of 24,000, and also amortization of 1,328,000. Higher wages, benefits, and then also excavator and grader repairs were budgeted for, which came out good. Environmental consists of wages of this total of 50,000, materials of 33,000, amortization of 82,000. Higher haulage fees were also budgeted for both sites and occurred, resulting in this discrepancy. And in recreation services, library costs of 87,000, wages of 36,000, materials of 173,000, and amortization of 23,000. And result, and then the last item is planning development of 5,000, which relates to costs related to wages and also in outside contract work. So overall, the difference between the revenue and expense for the municipality resulted in a excess of revenue expenses of the $215,070. There's accounts for 2 reserves of $157,012, and then a transfer to equity and tangible capital assets of $58,050. So net transfers was also $215,070, resulting in a nil change in the surplus for the year. This is the change in their financial assets, so essentially showing the changes in the items that are not included in net and the non-financial assets. So that's the change in the tangible capital assets. So that's the amortization and then also the acquisition, as I mentioned, the 2 amounts of the 1.572 million and 1.38. Just in the tangible capital assets, that's the increase in the landfill closure costs of 219,000, and then there's the proceeds or gains, sorry, on sale of the tangible capital assets, but the actual proceeds, which is what they actually received, and then there's the change in inventory prepaid. So there was a small decrease in net financial assets, so that's the amount that's kind of moved from the non-financial or the net financial assets to non-financial assets, and the overall changes in the non-financial assets. And this is the last, I guess, statement in the package. It's the cash flow statements. So this, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of goes through about where the cash outflows and inflows were for the municipality. We had our excess revenue or expenses of 132,832. We added back amortization because it's a non-cash expense, so there's no cash outlay. The gain on the sale of tangible assets is also, it's a not, it is a non-cash gain, so you take that, back that out. The accretion expense is added back in. Accretion expenses, it's the annual increase in your, landfill closure costs. So eventually your landfill closure costs, pull your liability at the end of the year. Estimated, when estimated closure occurs, and then a change in deferred revenue is also, removed as it's a, it's a non-cash item that comes in, you already received the cash. And then the next area is the net change in non-cash working capital balances of operations, and this area is as your various, I guess, categories can increase or decrease. They can either tie up a lot of cash within the municipality or also produce cash. As I mentioned, because the tax receivable and accounts receivable decreased, you can see by two of them amounts, they increase the cash balance for the municipalities, which is a good thing. Inventory decreasing and prepaids decreasing also. I guess, there's much cash tied up in those areas. And then there's also the decrease in accounts payable because you're paying them down, decreases the cash balance. But overall, the change in your non-cash working capital balance was a positive, just about 443,000. So cash flows from operating did reduce 2.2 million, almost 39,000 in cash for the within the organization. And the next series of cash flows for financing is fairly minor, just a long-term debt repayment for the waste recovery of just over $5,000. And then we can see the cash flows used for capital activities. So these are capital additions, as I had mentioned earlier. And also the non-cash ARO tangible capital assets is also added back as a non-cash increase or expense. So, but overall, the cash flows used for capital activities or additions for the organization during the year were 1,560,000. So resulting between those three areas, resulting in an increase in cash of 573,261. Yet our cash that equivalents to the start of the year, 3,567,000, resulting in the our ending balance we saw in the statement of financial position of 4,140,000.
Thank you, Lori, for an excellent presentation. Questions from council? Councilor Ricky Canfield.
Overall, though, we're proceeding in a positive way.
Yes, yeah. I think you really got to tie these into like your capital, the capital plan, just, how much roads and everything costs, so. You have to increase, you can do a road and decrease the things very quickly, so yeah, I kind of matched it to, so you're moving ahead, but it is, the statements are positive.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I don't see any other questions. So again, thank you for your presentation, and always glad to have you when you're bringing us good news. So thank you. And I have a motion, council adopts the 2025 draft financial statements, moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Buckland. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Yeah. Item 7.2 is in regards to the electric vehicle. I have a motion that council accepts this report as information pertaining to bylaws 2026-25. Moved by Councilor Robinson, seconded by Councilor Ricky Schoenfeld. Questions, comments? Councilor Buchwald?
Just a question, Scott, how does will this affect the general public being able to use the vehicle?
Well, what in the sense of it is, this proposal would serve as a form of a public service for the community. That's what the senior center does, and just for context, that's what the bylaw proposed is to enter into an agreement with the Eatonville Senior Center for these electric vehicles over a 2-year term. But still with this being a friendly agreement for the township, to call back that vehicle as needed if it's needed here, if it's needed by somebody from the community. So it's a flexible arrangement.
So do we have a process for community members wanting to use it yet?
We have, together with Bonnechere Valley Township and Whitewater Township, we are entering all these 3 vehicles into a piece of software, and it's going to track the usage, make it reservable by people. So we're all collaborating together for this rental software.
And just one more, is there anything available to the public yet so that they know how to proceed?
No, so the software, I just actually picked up the vehicle today. So Bonnechere Valley is kind of taking the lead in this in the grant overall, and sourcing the software for the rental purposes of it. So there was a device installed in the vehicle just last week. I picked it up today. Then we're going to have our introductory training on the software this week.
Thank you. Councilor Ramshaw.
So maybe just a suggestion, because the 3 municipalities are working together, whenever that's up and running, maybe something could be in a newspaper or something like that, because I imagine it would be a similar system with the 3 municipalities, and then everybody would get that same information.
It is, what we're doing is we're moving forward, we do move the insurance forward, move the software forward, move the vehicle forward, so it's been a lot of component pieces to this, and we're I think they're all in line, we're near the finish line.
Yeah, thank you.
You have another question, Councilor Buffett?
Yeah, the concern I have with entering into a lease agreement for, with an organization is, my understanding when council discussed this and we looked at the grant, it was to make it more available to people that didn't have an option for vehicles. Whereas this organization and their volunteers, they do often have their own vehicle. I still support the work that they're doing, but I don't think that this type of agreement fits in with what our initial vision was.
So I guess I'll try and answer that, and maybe Luke can jump in if he needs to. One of the challenges right now that the senior needs is having, they have volunteer drivers, but the volunteers aren't willing to take their own vehicles anymore because of the price of fuel. And so having a vehicle available that they can use, they can still provide the same level of service without having to incur that additional expense by using their own vehicles. And I think the other part of the plan is that they're trying to set it up so that they reserve 1 or 1.5 days a week just for providing their service, but then the rest of the week it's available for our greater community if they want to utilize the vehicle. Councilor Robinson.
It should also be noted that the Eco Center does have their own vehicle as well. So if this is in addition to, so they're basically expanding the availability of delivery of service to North Algona and surrounding areas.
Luke, is there anything you want to add?
Well, I just think that this certainly, I think having it used by the Eco Center will help to maximize the use of this vehicle over this term, because say we don't know what the public consumption will be at this point, but we do know that during the times when it's at the Eco Center, it'll be used to a maximum extent. So this vehicle will be running on the road, providing a good service to seniors within our community. And if we take that bite out, we could have a more flatter curve of usage, but we know during that block, there will be high usage right off the bat, which I do suggest is a good
Council Buckland.
Okay, that clarifies things like, because I didn't know what the report, what the scale of usage was going to be. But yeah, it's limited to a day or 2 days a week, so that the rest of the time it can be available for what the original program was, then I'll take that.
I think what I'll do is, and again, we're trying to push this forward to get the vehicle on the road. So I think there's still a lot of massaging that can happen, and maybe their days are, we'll find out what their days are, and we'll find out what our days are, and then this bylaw facilitates putting this together and getting things moving, I do think. So we know from day one, this vehicle will start on.
Council Ray.
And I know the software technologies out there, I know the schools, like a school in Pembroke could book something that'll be on, where there's a general calendar, so I think, once that all comes into place, somebody wanting to use the vehicle could either say, okay, I know it's available that day, that's when I'm gonna use it to go into town, right? You know, and I do like the idea that it's gonna be not sitting here, it's actually gonna go and serve a purpose. You know, and we do have a number of people in North Oklahoma that, you know, do have, those on wheels, so I think it's a good thing, and like you said, it's like it's a learning thing, and I think maybe, you know, there might be a problem that arises, as long as we're flexible enough to accommodate that, and then like move forward, but the whole idea is to use it as much as we can.
That works for me.
And Council Ray Shawnfeld, you said we should maybe do a public press release. That's something we do plan on doing once all of the pieces are put in place and are functional. Then we want to do a little bit of a media Seeing no other comments, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Secretary. And 7.3 is a Boulder Union Public Library. I have a motion that council accepts the Boulder Union Public Library CEO May 2026 report as information. Moved by Councillor Buckle, seconded by Councillor Redmond. Questions or comments?
Unfortunately, I was not at the meeting, so I did not put a report in. But we're here and I'm definitely for the August Festival. So hope everyone.
And when is that?
The first meeting Mondays in July. So 4 Mondays.
And it is, according to the CEO at the library, it is probably one of the best attended authors festival, even compared to the larger cities like Toronto.
It's all active.
Yeah. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And 7.4 is in regards to Councillor Burns. I have a motion that council accepts the regrets of Councillor Melvin Byrne for a period of 3 months in accordance with the Municipal Act, Section 259C. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Buckle. Questions, comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7.5 is the Nowhere Festival report. I have a motion that council accepts this report pertaining to the 2026 Nowhere Festival as information. Moved by Councillor Buckwald, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Redmond.
Just so we only have a debrief, then we can address, you know, those like the time, and I mean, it's good that, you know, it said there was no explicit agreement, so we clarified that, which is good. You know, I just think it's important, you know, whether the landowners are at the debriefing meeting or not, but just to send us the questions and comments and concerns.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7.6 is in regards to the Golden Wing Christmas tree proposal. I have a motion that council accepts this report And the council $1,500 financial support from the Recreation Committee Programs budget. And further, the council provides financial support for the remaining balance of $714.80 from the council public relations budget for the holiday tree lighting initiative. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Rachel. Comments, questions?
So I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions. We talked a little bit about it at our main meeting, and I did create the report. And then I also included in our agenda package the tentative quote from Santa Belchamp. I just think it's really important because once again, I mean, it was a community-centered project. It does bring the community together. Lots of kids, are excited. It's kind of the kickoff to the holiday festival season. And the ladies in that community have we've benefited. It makes us look great that they're the ones behind doing it all. And the fact that they have to take it up and take it down and do all that stuff. So the rec committee initially donated the $1,500, of course, it's out of our budget, but and the taxpayers' budget. I get that. But then my ask was that, council donates the other $714.80, and then that covers the whole bill. They still provide the munchies and they still provide the treats for the kids and all that other stuff. So it's not, and it does raise money for the food bank. I just think it's a very worthy cause.
Mr. Councillor Buckle.
I'll echo all that. Having been there when Val and Kevin and others have been putting up those lights. The amount that sways when they're putting it up, I think if we can put them up once and leave them up, even from a safety perspective, it's worth that now. And now they're gonna be there. If you don't require that, you're not tied down with weather limitations leading up to it. To me, this is a win-win.
I guess the question I would ask is from a maintenance perspective, because some bulbs go out.
Yeah, so she went, so the owner of Elite Window Cleaning, which also does lighting, she went to a conference out in BC. So these are commercial lights, and the way they give more elastic than the ones that we buy, let's say at the local stores. So they're meant for something like this, and that's why they're meant for 5 to 7 years. But so they take all those factors in mind. So they're more of a commercial type light as opposed to I don't know what light we buy and we do go on Depot. Right. And she's giving it to us at cost. And she got a really good deal on the crane. And I think they just wanted to move forward so then they could start to get all their ducks in a row and get it going as opposed to like when they're freezing and stuff like that. When it's really cold. Yeah. And it does look good. Like, I mean, I love Christmas lights and I love seeing the tree and so thank goodness the windstorm didn't take it. Better than that.
I just wanted to add thank you to Councillor Reggie Schultfeld for doing some of the homework on that and putting together the report. This is certainly a great community event. It brings out a lot of I think kids really look forward to it. And certainly have always been supported as well by our fire department and also by the Cottage Cup, who provide those wonderful cronuts and hot chocolate. Seeing no other comments, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 9.1 is in regards to correspondence. And I have a motion on correspondence items 9.1.1 to 9.1.8 be accepted as information. Moved by Councillor Buckwald, seconded by Councillor Rollins. Any questions on any of them? Councillor Rachel.
Just the correspondence from Billy to know. So really in it, it's just saying there's gonna be no shovels or backhoes in the ground until maybe 2032, maybe 2034. Is that kind of right?
That's correct.
That's so hard to believe.
The guarantee that they would make is that the design contract will be completed by 2032.
Right. So like when you think about that and then the awarding and then all that other stuff, it's still like years and years away, which is very, very disappointing because we know roads in other parts of Ontario don't seem to take this long consultation. And it's not like it's going through a major waterway or any of that other stuff. like, you know, it's like, to me, it's very disappointing, because I think we're all so excited when we got that information early in the spring, and then, you know, you read this and it's just, it's very disappointing. I'm very disappointed. That's all.
Thank you. And I agree with you.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah. See no other comments, all in favor? That is carried, thank you. Item 9.2.1 is in regards to the Corridor Train Alliance. Whereas the Corridor Train Alliance, CTA, is continuing efforts to build a coalition across southeastern Ontario and is advocating for proper passenger rail service in the 401 corridor, while advocating against the northern route or southern route, which would divide rural areas and which is not welcome for agriculture, environmental, and community reasons, while the cities in the 401 corridor are desperate for reliable passenger transportation. Whereas CTA is not advocating for high-speed rail at this time and favors high-frequency rail, but recognizes that exact speed and exact alignment are decisions which will ultimately be made by the Government of Canada and should be based on engineering and feasibility studies which seriously assess the 401 corridor. And whereas the 401 area is a critical existing transportation corridor, which already divides land and provides integrated highway, freight rail, ports, seaway, and urban rural transportation needs, servicing approximately half of Canada's population. Whereas CTA is calling on the Government of Canada to recognize the 401 corridor as a transportation corridor of national importance. And whereas if any modern any modern passenger rail line is to be built, CTA is calling on the Government of Canada to build it in the 401 corridor with stops and speed determined by engineering and economics to serve as many people as possible. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Right Honourable Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Steve McKinnon, Minister of Transportation, Premier Doug Ford, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, MPP Billy Deneau, and MP Cheryl Dolan. Do I have a move in a second?
Oh, sorry.
Moved by Councillor Robinson. Second by Councillor Rathi. Councillor Buckle.
There's no resolution there. There are a number of whereas leading into it, but there's no, therefore be it resolved, there's no action. It's not, we could move a second.
Okay. Laura?
We could add that council supports the CTA in calling the Government of Canada.
Do you have another suggestion, Councillor?
My suggestion would be the last two whereas be turned into therefores. So
That would work, yes.
So therefore, Algona Wilberforce instead of whereas CTA. And then whereas becomes therefore if any modern passenger rail be built.
That seems to be the easiest change.
There's a break on the second last slide for Wardens Caucus. that costs us in.
Or we're going to Wilberforce instead of CTA.
And we'd also have to change CTA in the next paragraph as well.
I think that was it.
Also,
Thank you, Laura. So I'll call a vote on the resolution as amended. All in favor? It's carried, thank you. And 9.2.2 is a Golden Lake Community Garden. By motion of council permits the Golden Lake Community Garden Committee to construct an accessible AODA compliant path through the community garden. And also to install an underground water line from the Golden Lake Fire Hall to the community garden area. And that the Golden Lake Community Garden Committee is responsible for all associated costs, permits, and contractor selection. And that the Public Works Supervisor approve of all construction plans and material prior to the start of any construction. Moved by Councilor Buckwell, seconded by Councilor Becky Schoenfeld. Questions and comments? Councilor Becky Schoenfeld.
I know in their letter they talk about, like, if we know of anybody that could help them with, let's say, the path. I'm sure like there must be AODA type websites where they can go and get that information about how to construct an AODA compliant path. And the other thing too, I'm wondering if we should also say not only the public works supervisor, but also like the chief building officer. I don't know if she had anything to do with the construction on.
I don't, pathways don't elevate anything code.
No, okay.
And just to follow up on that thought, I know that, excuse me, we have looked at, putting in a pathway at Melissa Bishop Park. And I don't think we got the grant that time to go ahead, but there should be a plan and there should be some sort of a report that's available. I'm not sure, Luke, if you've ever come across it, but.
No, not for.
Okay.
And the other thing, I know, maybe we don't call it what we're calling it. Maybe we just call it that way. Right, I know what I'm trying to say, if we say it's AODA compliant, and if we don't do it right, then we're not in compliance, right? But maybe all we wanna do is make a nice road for ease of people going back and forth. And maybe it could be made of pavement, or maybe it could be made of concrete.
I think we're on.
And whatever is presented, for it to be accessible, there has to be a width. Guideline, so that, with slope. Exactly.
Yeah, it's got to be slope.
Right.
And like no drop off, like, you know, whatever the side of the path would be, it would have to be sloped down and stuff, but I'm sure there's guidelines and stuff.
I think those should be presented before anything is moved forward.
But the problem is, the application deadlines don't like for 2 months, they might not have that much time. But I'm hoping if they got that much money, then we would ensure that they're followed. Even if they were only able to do half of that with. And to me, and here's the other thing that some wise person told me, even though you get a grant, you have to be prepared to be able to maintain it after. And I think sometimes we don't do that, we're like, yeah, we got this, but then how we're gonna look after it down the road. So it gets back to me, if we're doing a pathway, which I think is great, then it should be a pathway that's gonna last, something like our road super said, I gotta pave roads and chip them, right, because they're gonna last longer. So whatever we decide, it should be, whatever they decide, it should be there that we don't have minimal maintenance. And I'll be there for a while.
And I would think that the reason that they're making it or intending for it to be AODA compliant is that it probably helps maybe get some of the grant money. So everybody's okay with the resolution, the way it reads? I'll call the vote, all in favor? That's good, thank you. 9.2.3 is the Eastern Ontario IT Collaborative Framework. And I move from council accepts the AI Collaborative Framework as information. Moved by Councilor Recchi, seconded by Councilor Buckwald. And I just wanted to bring this forward to council because this was quite a presentation we had at the county, where AI is becoming more and more of a tool that everybody's starting to use. And now it's becoming also a very, very important thing. That was in the information provided that municipalities, counties are going to have a policy on how it's utilized, who has access and for what purposes and so on. Because it's not like we can say we're not going to use it because it's moving ahead so quickly that it will be part of our lives going forward. So I brought this forward, so hopefully moving forward, the council can utilize whatever information. I think the county's developing a policy right now, so I'm sure they'd be willing to share their policy. We could adopt one, massage it to work for our municipality as well. Councilor Rachel.
Just because it's being so prevalent, like I hope our staff is able to get some like development so that like when they see it, it's not totally like I don't know what's going on, because they're gonna have to learn to be comfortable. So they're gonna need some professional development, because I just think it's coming. And I really wish, like in the olden days when we did an English essay and we had a footnote and source everything, it would really be nice when I get something from someone that it says AI generated. Because like you read it and you think, oh, this person is so brilliant and oh, so articulate. And then you're like, I don't know, where did this come from? But I mean, it gives you a false representation of who that person is or what that is. You know, I say it like it's a tool, but some people are using it as, that's my problem I have with this.
Well, I think part of the process and policy is to be able to manage it. Because if, for example, you receive a resume, you need to have something that you can put that resume and you know that it's not from the individual, it's just.
Ask an AI if an AI wrote this.
But there are ways and there are clues in that process. And I think that as it moves into mainstream, there are going to have to be tools to detect.
But then, yeah, and I too have to be educated in it because I wouldn't know what tool to use to be able to proofread it or whatever, you know, and so that's where I feel really bad for our staff because it's coming. So they need to be professionally developed and they have to feel comfortable with it, you know?
As much as coming, it's already.
Yeah.
It's here.
And And it is kind of scary, because that is the hard thing to do, is how can you fact check to make sure that
That's
what's
right.
being produced is authentic?
Yeah.
In fact, I was reading where some companies are now even having AI do the job interviews for hiring candidates, and
But that's an involved standards. They'll just use it differently.
I'm just behind the times.
That's what I mean, you have to get progress.
Yeah, that's been one of the gatekeeping tools that they've used for decades.
Well, they sorted resumes like that for ages.
Okay, seeing no further comments, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. So that brings us to bylaw, and item 10.1 is now therefore the Council of North Algona Wilberforce enact the following bylaw 2026-25, FEMA bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the Corporation of North Algona Wilberforce Township and Eganville and District Senior Needs Association and Wastewater Seniors Association. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Buckley. Any further questions, Councillor Buckley?
I have some concern with this. So this is a vehicle lease agreement. There's nothing in here that covers what we spoke about earlier about how long they would have it, because this is a blanket lease, which basically means we're turning the vehicle over to them. I have a concern with that, and there's nothing in here. I've had some discussions with the city about this, about clarifying that whether there will or will not be any compensation required as part of the lease. But this agreement as it stands basically is telling them they're leasing the vehicle from us.
Luke, if you,
In section 3, it says the agreement shall commence on June 16th and terminate on June 16th, 2028. So it's proposed to your thing.
Oh yeah, there's a dictum, but there's no actual limitations on how long they can have a vehicle, because this is literally, this, we are taking the vehicle and leasing it to them, just like leasing a vehicle from a dealership. We don't have anything in here limiting the time that we spoke about earlier in the meeting.
Oh, well, and that's what I was saying, so we wanna maximize the use, and I think this is a good outline for what they may and may not do with the vehicle and a term that will do with it, but this association is almost part and parcel of our township. It's an organization that supports North Dakota workforce residents. And the understanding between us and the association is that we're gonna figure out how, through our discussions, if they're best 2 days a week there, then us 3, then that will come. But this is gonna open the door for that share to get followed with it.
Maybe what we could do is in the Schedule A. And then even on when we get to number 13, well, then it says 14, we could include something like Councillor Buckle wants, that, time permitting or scheduling will allow North Algona residents to be able to book this car. Because when you read through all the stuff, it talks about termination, maintenance, all that other stuff, we could have a little bullet that basically, and then it kind of goes along with what you want, make sure that you have the chance, our residents have a chance to use it.
It does state, like, I mean, just, I think that kind of further refinement on this partnership, but it does say, the vehicle should remain the sole property of the township at all times. And then it just goes on to say what the seniors association shall not use it for, and also their driver's insurance. So there, I don't know if we could have, I mean, possibly, but if we could have taken it to that next level at this time, I'm not sure.
Councillor Buckley.
My concern is if we do this agreement, we sign it with them, there's no changing it other than canceling it and having to start over. So I'd rather see us deal with it before we ask something that's going to tie their hands or ours. I think that a memorandum of understanding would be a better choice than a lease agreement.
We did it this way because of insurance asks. So when we're consulting with insurance, that's kind of the scope they wanted to see that.
I, but I still think we have to put some more details in there about availability, because again, if I lease you a vehicle, I can't give somebody else the keys to it. So if they leased it under this agreement, the way it's written, and I don't see them doing it, but our job is to make sure that everything's okay.
Do you know, Luke, has this been vetted by legal?
Through insurance. Both through us and the senior center's insurance provider.
I can't see like the senior center saying, yeah, this means that we get to keep it for 2 years. I don't think that they do that. Yeah.
That's what we're telling them.
No, I don't think they're gonna do it.
Well, and I'm not saying that they would, but if this was your vehicle, would you sign an agreement like that? I wouldn't.
Do we have time, Luke, to add any more information?
I mean, we could do this enter this agreement, like I said, get the ball rolling with the thought, and then enter, still go with a memorandum of understanding, that what the understanding is that. Like, I just don't know, I don't know if we would get it right with them getting it in motion. First, to see how it's gonna respond with their group. I think in a few months, if we came back and said, okay, now we know that they really like this on Thursdays and Fridays, that's working perfectly for them and us. But I guess at this time, I'm looking to, I just don't know if we know enough at this point, so.
Council Robinson?
Might I suggest that we look in where it says permitted use, which is section 5. That we state or early discussion, which is that we're supplying that facility to
Oops, sorry, didn't mean that.
where we talked about 2 days a week. Up to 2 days a week that we were going to be providing the vehicle. I think that would be where I would suggest we put it. That there's some restriction on how long they would have it on a weekly basis.
And that's fine, we can do that, I'll always sit in this chair if I, just the other side,
That's fine.
I'm not disagreeing. But maybe then. The usage is more flatter here at the township. In which case 3 days,
I understand, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It just gives some, it's either that or it's some, we have that as a Schedule A that would identify exactly what the expectations are.
Council Buckle?
I agree with Councilor Rowan. I think the simplest way to do it would just put a maximum number of days under the PW section.
The challenge though with that is. If you're gonna do that, then you take away some of the flexibility. If 1 week they wanna use it 3 days and the next week they only wanna use it 1 day, but they're not to do 2 days.
But then the driver can come and book it individually.
So we're not saying that it's limited to that, we're saying up to. So they can do 1 day, 2 day, or 3 day.
How would you say 2 days a week?
No, we're saying up to. If that's,
But yes, this organization could have it for up to 2 days a week. If they needed it more than that, the individual driver would have to book it through the office. Because what I'm seeing here is I'm basically saying that instead of the individual drivers having to come and book the vehicle with the municipality, it's just going to be a blanket booking through the association. That's what I'm understanding. So basically saying, okay, so instead of coming to the township and booking it through them during this period of time. So I think we have to put a limit on that, on when they can do it, otherwise how would anybody else know when it would be available? If we don't have those dates in there. I just can't support the way it's written. Okay.
What's the urgency to get this done?
Well, it's just time to move forward with it, but not necessarily an urgency, and we can always. We've done it in the past, we can call a special meeting to pass a bylaw, maybe attend by Zoom, just have a one night meeting if need be, but, so that's budget.
So I think what I'm hearing is council in favor to defer this until.
Yeah, just a thought, Mr. Mayor, just based on what we were saying, it's not, this agreement doesn't have to be in place for them, their individual drivers to book it at this point, once it's ready to go.
They are, I would imagine for their insurance, because what we're saying too in this agreement is that when their drivers are, that's a critical part of this, is that when their drivers are using it, it's under the agency's insurance policy. And that was a big thing for our insurance, we would have to clarify that for our insurance, to say, we're gonna cover it while they're, and our insurance. Their initial response was no, thank you. So that's why, again, this is a facilitating bylaw in a sense, we can, council can defer by all means, my preference would be to see what this is like and come back with more information.
That's what I was saying.
There is also a clause that at any point in time that we can terminate that agreement. So which is in the terms, so if it's not working at any point, we can terminate too.
It's another two.
Yes.
And I never like to terminate agreements, but if I may, just Councilor Buckwell, your wish or what you'd like to see is some regularity for public usage.
Yeah, from my perspective, that's what the vehicle was originally planned for, so that it was available to members of the public. Under this agreement, it's not, it's only available to the lessee, person who leased it.
I don't think it precludes, I do think it facilitates, I hear what you're saying, I don't think it precludes that, but it certainly facilitates the agency to begin using it, I'll leave it to guys.
But can we not just put something under like, Councilor Robinson said at number 5, this does not include, not the Wilberforce residents from booking it, I think it's not. Like something.
Or we just defer and we get it clarified.
I would say defer makes the most sense.
Yeah. Whatever it
If
says.
we're still waiting for the software that can be developed, it's probably not going to be given out tomorrow. So there's probably going to be some lead time there, but at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's just moving each piece, individual pieces forwards and.
And if we have to do a special meeting, we was realizing. Okay, so then.
Just. I want to be clear about, so we're looking for, I mean, I guess just for council, since this is open for discussion at this time, right? We're looking for a couple of days a week, is that what you think?
I was basing that on the comments you had made about what the kind of plan was.
Yes.
Right, when we were talking earlier about the scope of it. Like, so I don't have a problem with 2 days, 3 days, whatever it looks like to be, but I think we have to specify what's going to be available to the public, which is what this was done for. That's my perspective.
Can we say, include anything that said this will be after this is all written out properly, this can be revisited in 6 months to see how things are progressing? In case we go from, then we go for 3 days instead of 2. But I'm just saying, if he's writing something up, that has to take that into account. That's all. Yeah, because it is a very flexible thing, we don't know what it's gonna look like, that's right. When Councilor Buckwell does have one point on that, you would hate for someone to come in and say, this looks like you just gave it to those agencies.
Or the grantor that helped pay for it, if that falls, I don't see. That's my other concern.
So then all in favor to defer? That's carried. Are there any matters of urgency? Any notice of motion? Reports from committee, and I have one from the Recreation Committee. I have a motion to council accepts the May and June Recreation Committee Chair reports as presented. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Butler. Questions, comments?
So just to let you know, like 3 exciting events coming up in June. One on Saturday, the Northford County ATV Club in association with the Rec Committee, you're gonna hold a poker run, hopefully, and it will be great. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. And then 27th and 28th of June is the truck and tractor pull and the smash up derby. Yeah,
And they're still looking for volunteers if anybody's around.
Yeah.
Feel so
Contact. Kevin, yeah. So it's gonna be a great time. Busy but great. Great busy.
All in favor? And that's carried, thank you. So our next meeting will be August 25th, 2026 at 7 p.m. The next Recreation Committee meeting will be September 8th, 2026 at 7 p.m. We do not have any closed session tonight. So item 17 is our confirmatory bylaw. Bylaw 26 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for June 16th, 2026 is read a first and second time this 16th day of June 2026, moved by Councillor Buckwell, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Is read a third time and finally passed this 16th day of June 2026. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And then final meeting. This meeting of June 16th, 2026, this council meeting adjourns at 8:33 p.m. Moved by Councillor Leslie Schoenfeld, seconded by Councillor Robinson, all in favor, that's carried, thank you, we are adjourned.